Hi guys, welcome to week 3 of the 4-week series. So week 1 we covered obviously vision, week 2 we've covered passion, and week 3 today we're going to cover brand. And a reminder that next week we bring it all home and together, where we have all of our panelists with us and our advisors to answer Q&A. We had a very strong Q&A session last week, which was fantastic. Remember that this is brought to you by Business Station and ASBAS. And it's the Entrepreneurial Intelligence Workshop hosted by myself, Philip Depella. So week 1, again, vision. Week 2, passion. I'm going to recap both of those. And today we're going to cover brand. And I will go back for those that are first-time listeners. Of course, the slides will also be available to everyone, and Agatha will put that up. And remember that to ask the questions as we go along. So what I'm going to do first of all, is we've got a couple of our wonderful advisors. I believe I'm surrounded by the ladies today. Sandra, Carolyn and Tracy. What I'm going to do is get each of them to give a 60 seconds introductions of themselves. And remember that during this presentation, as I go through some stuff, and write down any questions. Put your questions in the box in the Q&A, because we will allow a good 20 to 30 minutes of Q&A like we did last week, which worked really well, where all the advisors will be online. Sandra, Tracy and Carolyn. You can ask the 3 ladies and myself any question that pops into your head, and we'll tick off on that. So just a reminder. But I'll hand over to the ladies. Sandra, do you want to kick off first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in today. So my name is Sandra Tricoli, so I can hear the truck in the back. So just wanted to introduce myself. So I am the Director of Savvy Creations PR, and I really work with businesses to raise their profile online, as well as obviously traditional means through PR. So yeah, today more than ever, social media and online presence is very important. I think COVID has proved to all of us how important it is to have an online strategy in place, because when people, can't actually come and meet with you, the only way they can actually interact with you is online. So yeah, that's really what I do, and I specialize in working with businesses, all different industries, to assist them with creating a strong strategy that will, position them as the go-to person in their industry. That's a little bit for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Sandra. Tracy.
G'day, folks. Thanks, Phil. Good to be with everyone again. So my name is Tracy Sheen. I'm known as the Digital Guide, the author of The End of Technophobia, a practical guide for digitising your business. I've got 30 years in digital marketing and sales, particularly around the B2B small business space. I'm an ex-coffee person as well. So I had a coffee business for 11 years in wholesaling and basic row, and understanding how technology can assist them, whether it's in marketing, productivity, whatever area of the business it is. So that's me. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Tracy. And Carolyn, over to you, love.
Hi guys, thank you too for joining us. So my name is Carolyn. I'm one of the directors of Hawthorn Creative. We specialise in helping you or teaching you how to create content that converts. We have an in-house photography and videography studio, so we work with you to create holistic content centred around your business to help increase your online presence. It's going to be a cracker of a session today, and thank you, Phil, for all the wisdom you're bringing to the table.
Thank you. And collective, using on that, there's a collective years amount of wisdom that are able to you guys to utilise. And today we'll, like I said, last week I was really impressed that we had over 20-25 minutes of Q&A, which is great, because then we can get in as a team and explore your questions nitty gritty. But as I said, we're going to do a recap. I'll come over quickly on vision and passion, and I'll work out really quickly how to share this screen again. And here we go. There we go. I hope we're all good. We've got the screen is shared. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
yeah, we can see it.
With brand. So here's the technical. This is what Google tells us brand is, and I want you to have a look at how complex this is. Good meaning, but have a look at how complex it is, and then hopefully by the end of this session I can demystify and give you a very practical understanding of what brand is by using my own businesses as an example of what I've created. So a brand is a product, service or concept that is publicly distinguished from other products, services or concepts, so that it can be easily communicated and usually marketed. A brand name is the name of the distinct product, service, or concept. Pretty full on, right? Thanks to Google. So before we get into brand, let's do a recap. Let's have a look at the recap on vision. And remember what I said, the vision is the why. So Simon Sinek, and for those of you that are listening on 3 weeks in a row, some of it will be a recap, but we'll go through it quickly. Simon Sinek talks about the why, what, how. I talk about vision is the why. So vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. What we covered in week 1, and again, even if you're joining in and registered today or registered for next week, then you get access to all of these slides. So Agatha's fantastic from Business Station. She'll make sure that happens. But we uncovered that goals and visions are completely different. That they are completely different. Vision, it starts with the vision, your goals then underpin your vision and is how you roll it out. By envisioning a future place, you're setting a goal by which you will measure your success. You're laying down your strategic plan, which gives you the foundation to succeed. You can't have a strategic plan without having a vision. The vision must be customer focused. We talked about this. The ultimate coffee experience is what it was about DiBella Coffee when I started 2002 and exited in 2017. The success of going from a startup to being the biggest in our space in the country was that we all talked about the ultimate coffee experience. That's what the vision was. It was not about me. It was always about the customer. So on to passion. Last week we talked about the what. Passion is a strong and barely controllable emotion that evokes action. And what we really honed in on here, it was, and you could see in the Q&A, the passion of all the advisors, right, is that it evokes action, that it's okay to have an emotion, but unless it drives you to take action, then it becomes useless. And that's why passion is the what, because it actually drives you to take action. So education, opportunity, and people were my passions. And the coffee industry and my developed business was only the vehicle that I used to enjoy and partake in my passion. That's something to think about. A lot of us might be in the legal fraternity, we might be in education, and we actually think that that is our passion when it's not. What I discovered through my journey is that my passions actually lie around education, being better today than yesterday, around opportunity, being able to capitalize on opportunities that exist, solving problems, and people. That I'm actually passionate about people. I like getting people emotionally engaged into my purpose, into what I'm actually driving. It's not, the developed business was not about DiBella. It was simply the vehicle that I used to actually drive these passions home. So I questioned everyone, what drives you? What motivates you? What evokes the best emotional feeling possible? And if you haven't done that yet, I suggest you do, is to really map out the answers to these. And it'll help you understand what your what is. And are you operating in an environment that allows you to drive, your passion? So what drives you? What motivates you? What evokes the best emotion possible from you? And remember, the passion is an emotion that will be one of the key foundations for you to achieve outcomes. We talked about passion being resilient. You want to know if you're truly passionate about something, you're resilient. You don't stop, you keep going. When people said, no, I don't want to buy your coffee, it wasn't an emotional reaction from me, it was more a why. Let's dissect this. Let's look at the data. Let's analyze it and see why they're saying no and how can I build strategy to overcome. So I used passion as an emotional driver that evoked action. And I keep coming back to that. Evokes action, action, action. You can have the best strategy plans in the world. You can do things amazingly. But if you don't execute, and we talked about getting in the river, and I'm going to hear about it today, you got to get in the river. You can't stand on the banks of the river and watch the water flow and expect to get to a destination. It's not going to happen. So today, what have we got in store? Well, simply put, what we got in store is brand. Now, brand, I'm going to say, and you're going to hear me cover it a few times, brand is what people say about you, your product, or your service when you leave the room. Think about it. Brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. Now, it can be your personal brand or it can be your business brand. It is often both. So what I talk about right here is that it's not about a bunch of colors. It's not about text. It's not about fonts. It's not about graphics, right? It is a mark that evokes an action. That evokes an emotion that drives an action. So what we're going to be covering today is how do you build this emotional engagement with the person that drives them to choose you, right? And that's what brand is in essence. How do we develop this emotional driver, this emotional connection that makes people choose you? Because at the end of the day, that's the difference between failing, and succeeding, is that you're telling a story, you're emotionally engaging people by telling a story so that they choose you over somebody else. And I use cars as an example. Cars have the same purpose, however, are completely different in colour, in the way they look, in the way they operate, in the speed, the comfort, the price, the whole lot. What makes people choose one brand over another? It's how they emotionally engage. Restaurants are the same. At the end of the day, we all need to fuel ourselves and eat. Where we choose to eat, what we choose to eat, what price we choose to pay, is all going to be bearing on how we emotionally engage with an establishment. And that goes for who we choose: lawyers, consultants, venues, handbags, shoes. It doesn't matter. Everything that we choose is driven by an emotional engagement that makes us want that product, otherwise known as brand. So without knowing it or knowing it, and one of the things I love sharing is that I talk about subconscious behavior. So when you think about a brand, and I want to put you through this visual, so stay with me on this. Think about it. 90%, 80%, at least over half of the brands in your house are what we call subconscious buyers. Toothpaste, toilet paper. They will be, unless you're connected to something emotionally for a certain reason, whether it's environment, whether it's sustainability, whether it's price, they will be the same purchases your parents made when you were kids. They were brands that you were brought up around at home. Unless something has broken that cycle and engaged you differently, whether it is about sustainability, whether it is about environmental, whether it is price, whether it is social consciousness, there will be a driver that will change and break that habit. Otherwise, you will just buy what you've been exposed to and know. And for me, it's like Colgate, right? My parents bought Colgate, I buy Colgate. I'm not emotionally connected to anything else. There has to be something that comes along and breaks that train of thought for me to choose a different brand. Coffee was no different. I say to people with DeBella in 2002, there was 1,500 other coffee companies. And it wasn't about what color I chose, what text I chose, what font, what graphics, what bullshit story I spun or tagline I had. It was, how was I going to evoke an emotion that drove an action? And how was I going to engage people to choose me? I didn't have to get them to drink coffee. I had to get them to choose my coffee. And for us, when I started to look at it from a brand perspective, how did I want people to talk about the brand of DeBella when it wasn't in the room? It was about helping cafe owners make money. So our brand promise became, how do we help cafe owners make money so that we emotionally engage with them to buy our product? So every successful brand is underpinned by strategies that connect customers to their product or service. And I've opened it up by saying the driver for us was to get cafes to buy our coffee. How we were going to do that was to develop a brand that said, we are here to help cafe owners make money, which ties into the statement I talk about. Every successful brand is underpinned by strategies that connect customers to their product or service. So people choose your brand based on how you do the why in what you do. It's so important for you to know the why and the what, because they're going to choose you on how you go about it. And that's why brand ties that cycle up of vision, passion, brand. Brand is your how. Brand is your how you do the why in what you do. We need to be able to tell a compelling story so that people can choose you over everyone else. The person that wins is the person that tells the most compelling story, the person who engages emotionally better than everybody else. Remember that different people have different needs and expectations. However, everyone wants the most pressing need satisfied first. And this is something that I talk about with businesses. Have you identified what are the needs and expectations that you're going to deliver on? But what are the most pressing needs that you need? And a lot of these are around health, they're around safety. We saw this through COVID. Look at the businesses that did well around COVID. They were ones that were around safety, right? They were ones around people's needs. Now, some would argue toilet paper, some wouldn't argue toilet paper, leave it up to your own discretion. But hand sanitizer. Over a month period, we're not going to use any more toilet paper than what we did pre-COVID. Yet it drove people out there to go bonkers to buy it. I'm a very pragmatic person. The examples I use are pragmatic. Try and keep away from the opinions. But can anyone tell me they used more toilet paper over a period of 1 month? Of course, you used more toilet paper at home if you were living at home versus spending time in an office. But over the period of a month, no one used any more toilet paper than what they would have previously. So why did we actually end up with a shortage? Fair question. Understand better than your competitors what customers need and then develop and implement the strategies to continuously deliver on these needs. This is the domain of a brand. right? When I looked at the DeBella coffee brand, what did I want it to be? I use a model of perception, quality, and consistency. So the perception was to be best in class. The perception was that we were going to have an amazing brand that stood for quality. It was only going to be available in cafes and restaurants, not in supermarkets, right? And this wasn't that everyone else was wrong. Was how we were going to differentiate ourselves. Then quality-wise, we were going to make sure that we were consistent. That coffee at a time where it could taste good, it could taste bad, depending on what the conditions overseas were doing, with the growing, what the prices were. We wanted to take out as many variables and own the process from start to finish, a concept we called crop to cup, so that we could deliver quality in our product. Then we wanted to do it consistently, and we looked at the McDonald's brand and said, how do they get everything so consistent? It was through systemizing. It was through owning their own distribution. So we built strategies around owning our own distribution as we grew state to state. So at the end, we became the only company of our size to have complete ownership of all the distribution in every state, so that we could control the product. We were the only company that was fully integrated from A to Z, from crop to cup. And this was all the way that we could tie it back to the domain of brand. How do we help cafe owners make money? The perception was that we were best in class. How we went about it was the strategies that were there to deliver on these needs. Remember that your brand becomes the byproduct. It becomes the symbol when you do everything above, right? It's like Apple. It's like Microsoft. And we're going to cover a few of the brands in the other slides. But start thinking about these brands that are really, change the way we live. Facebook, hate them or love them, they've all been brands that have changed and shaken up the world. They've caused disruption, some positive, some negative. They've solved some problems. They've created more problems, but they've all had an impact. So let's talk about them from an impact. Think about the brands that have actually formed an impact in the last 3 to 5 years. But first, I want to touch on brand equity. Brand equity is when people continuously choose you over your competitors. Because what I find is it can be easy to choose somebody, or easier to get them to choose you once, to choose you twice. But how are you going to get these people to choose you all the time, especially when there's new people coming into the market? And you think about restaurants, right? At a time, especially in Brisbane, there's so many new restaurants opening up, right? How are you going to go to these new restaurants and go to each one of them over and over again? Well, you don't, because you get caught in this system where you're constantly trying something else new, unless they've built brand equity. And this is something that gets undervalued. So you've got to understand brand, but you've also then got to, once you're creating a brand, as we spoke about, you then need to understand that you need to continuously be providing brand equity so that people choose you over your competitors consistently. Otherwise, they're just on to the next restaurant, on to the next coffee brand, on to the next handbag, next car. Equity is what keeps them there. Remember that consumers have lots of choices, right? But when they keep coming back for your product or service, you've created the equity. So brand equity is where the true value of a company really lies. You think about how many iPhones you've had. It can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, or the multiple goes up. So for an example, people in our industry, when they sell their business, can be anywhere from 3, most to 5 times, up to 7 times multiple in sale. DeBella was a 12-time multiple. It was the first one of its kind in its class in Australia. Why? Because of the brand equity. Because of the strength of the brand equity we created, all of a sudden we're getting 5 to 7 times more multiple than anybody else that have sold previously in our industry. Brand equity is simply when the perception of quality and consistently is delivered successfully and people keep choosing you continuously. Remember, I spoke about the model of perception, quality, and consistent, and people choose you until you break the model. And the example I love to use here is McDonald's. So you think about McDonald's many years ago. They've gone full circle now, but many years ago, McDonald's was a 5-minute, $5 transaction, right? It took 5 minutes to get your order. It was a $5, and it was consistent. As they grew, someone in strategies thought, we want to compete with the growth of the burgers. Grilled is up and coming, and Betty's Burgers, and all these brands. And Melbourne had this influx in WA of all these independent burger joints doing amazing stuff. What happened is McDonald's goes, hey, we want a piece of that. So we're now going to build your own burger. So they changed the model. All of a sudden, the build your own burger strategy meant the burgers didn't taste the same at each McDonald's store because it was left at the discretion of the operator. It was taking 15 minutes to do something that previously only took 5. And the transaction was $15 because it costs more to do it. Plus they were trying to serve chips in baskets. After, I think, 12 months, 18 months, they finally realized that that's not what they are. They've gone back to the model. Unfortunately, it's not $5 anymore because wages have gone up out of this world. That's another discussion. But they've gone back to that 5-minute model, consistent. And whilst it's a little bit dearer than $5, it's not $15 a transaction. So McDonald's are a very good example of where they previously got brand equity perfectly well, perception, quality, consistently, had a bit of a hiccup because they changed their strategy and now have had to come back to that model. So, intelligent entrepreneurs have an intrusive grasp and understanding of the power of the brand. You need to make sure that you've always got brand at the forefront. Understand the brand is your how. So think McDonald's, what comes to mind? We just went through a bit of it. Think Apple, what comes to mind? So Apple in the beginning struggled because the fight was on for the smallest phone. Apple couldn't compete because it was a big phone until they changed the perception of the brand. And what they truly changed was that all of a sudden a big phone wasn't big when it got rid of the computer, the dictaphone, the handheld video recorder, it got rid of the Walkman. You had one device that did everything. The perception all of a sudden is that it's not a big device, it's a small device. And then you saw the demise of Nokia and Ericsson and Motorola, which were the three companies leading the race to the smallest phone. Think of Nike, what comes into mind? One of the most recognizable symbols in the world with just a tick. What emotions, thoughts, feelings, ideas, what actions do these brands make you partake in? What do they make you think about? When I say Red Bull, what do you think? You know, this is what relationship you have with the brands. Ferrari spent a lot of money years ago to say to children under the age of 10, tell me 2 things about Ferrari. And the most common was the color red and fast. Ferrari don't spend $1 advertising. They put it through things like Formula One. They don't take out billboards. They don't advertise in magazines. Ferrari are very strict in how they go about promoting their brand. Formula One is their number one way to do it. Through their showrooms, the immaculate showrooms is number 2. Ferrari World is another way. They get kids inspired from a young age to want to one day own a Ferrari. They build the relationship. They build the emotional connectivity from a young age. Remember that the power of a brand is to create the first buy, but also breed loyal customers and repeat business. And more importantly, referrals. You want people referring your business because they want to come back, not because they have to come back. Now think about that, because some people are going to be in the business where people will just have to come back versus they want to come back. Because the strategies will be a little bit different. But what I challenge people is, if you're in a business or industry where they have to come back, imagine if you can not only have to have them come back, but want to come back. So like none of us really want to pay our electricity bill because why? We're getting charged far too much. None of us really want to renew a license now that it costs double the price in Queensland of what it did 5 years ago. But we have to, right? Now there's many different, examples we can use of things that we don't have to, but that we have to come back, we don't necessarily want to come back. But who says that we can't interact with the bank and do it nicely because they make you want to spend money with them? Who says that we can't pay electricity bill with a smile on our face because they make it an easy process? Same with anything else, right? So a lot of people get it wrong because they take for granted the fact that people have to come to you versus that they want to come to you. And you'll find, very simply put on that comment, that where you'll get the best service will normally be from industries where people want to come back, not where they have to come back. So think about that. You also need to understand that not only tangible aspect of your sale and revenue, however, the intangible aspect of your sale, which is emotion, right? People are driven by emotions. They buy emotions. They choose you over emotions. It's not because of the tangibility. It's not because you've got the best coffee on the market, the best car on the market, the best handbag, the best consulting business. To me, there's no such thing as the best. Otherwise, nothing else would exist because everybody wants the best. So it's about making sure that we understand that and that we really put things in perspective. Now, to summarize, I want to give people a model to think about. Brand is the concept. Brand is about building that emotional engagement. Brand is what people say about you when they leave the room. How do we actually build that brand? This is how we do it. We tell a story so compelling that it inspires people to choose you. So you tell a story so compelling that it inspires people to choose you. So once you've worked out your vision, which is your why, once you've worked out your brand, your passion, which is your what. The how is your brand. How do we go about brand? This is how we go about brand. We sit down and go, right, this is what I want people to say about me when I leave the room, about my product, about my business, or even about myself. This is what I want them to say. You need to write that statement down. This is what I want them to think about us. For us, it was about helping cafe owners make money if you owned a cafe. If you're a consumer, it was about the ultimate coffee experience. Then what we needed to do was say, right, how can we tell a story so compelling that it gets people to engage with us? And this is the 3 ways to do it. Own the voice. Now, owning your voice is how you put your business cards together, your website, it's your logo design, it's your fonts, it's all of those things, it's your brand lines, it's your taglines, whatever you want to refer to them, it's your product statements, it's all of the look and warm and fuzzy feel of things that tell people the story around owning your voice, your vans, your signage. Buying the voice is your advertising. Right? So buying the voice is what you spend on social media, what you spend on print media, radio, digital, whatever it is, where you're actually paying people to tell your story. You're buying the space so that you can tell that story. The third one and the most powerful, once you've built the amazing brand, is where you've earned the voice, where people are doing the third-party endorsement, where other people tell your story. It is the most cost effective, it is the cheapest, but it takes the longest to develop. Yet it has the most cut through. So the model of brand is, what do I want people to say about me when I leave the room? Step 2, be able to tell a compelling story so that people choose us, but broken down into owning the story, buying the story, and earning the story. And you need to have the strategies in place for each 3. Right. So if you look at our new project, the Coffee Commune, if you go onto our website, www.coffeecommune.com.au, you will see how we own the story, the colors we use, the logos we use, the words we use, the layout that we use. If you have a look at our Facebook and our social media, you'll see how we buy the voice. You'll see how we buy the voice if you live in Brisbane and you live in the New Farm area, how we're using the local print media around here to do it. We just signed off on a digital billboards that will go to air around here. That's all buying the voice. How we earn the voice is through our memberships. So at the Coffee Commune is we've been for the last 6 months bringing people in, showing them around, giving them a tour, getting them to sign expressions of interest, and they've been telling other people about what we're doing that have then reached out to us through email, through phone calls to join. So we've gone from 1 to a network of over 200 expressions of interest in the last 4 months just by earning a voice. So we've put strategies in place through those each steps, and I encourage you to do the same for your own business. You need to build a marketing plan that outlines the above, but also set up a budget of what you have for each one. Now, a lot of questions. I'll be surprised if we don't get the question today. How do we put a marketing budget together? How do we know what to spend on brand? It's all relative to A, the funds you have available, and B, what you're trying to create. Debella was a $14 million turnover business, a big turnover business for what we sold, which was effectively $25 transactions. However, our marketing budget was $200,000 a year. We didn't work off the 10% that people talk about. We didn't go and spend $4 million a year on our brand, yet we had one of the most predominant, if not the most predominant branding class in the country. It wasn't about how much money we spent. So the first rumor I put to bed is it's not about the money you put aside, not the amount of money. Of course, if you've got an amazing strategy, the amount of money is going to help you the most because you'll have a great way to own the voice, buy it and earn it. But just by putting a lot of money into buying a voice is not going to do it. We can see it around what politicians do. If they sink a lot of money at an election, doesn't mean they're going to win. Clive Palmer was a great example. I'm very pragmatic in my approach. I like using tangible experiences. He had one of the biggest budgets to promote at the state election and didn't win one seat. That is a clear-cut example of buying a voice. Throwing millions of dollars at something to buy a voice is not necessarily going to get you the outcome you need. You need to have a very strong strategy around owning, buying, and earning a voice to ensure that you get traction. Remember that it's all about telling the story so that you're emotionally engaged. It's not telling a story so you get heard, so that you stand on your soapbox. It's about telling a story so that people can engage emotionally with your product or service. And the best way to do that is to be solving a problem, to be tying it back to a vision, to making people understand what you're passionate about. And you can see how today brand ties in entrepreneurial intelligence around vision. It all starts with your why, vision. It then goes on to what you're identifying the passions. which is your what. And then it goes in how you put it all together and execute through your brand, which is your how. Now, what I'm going to be doing next week is we're going to be doing a complete summary of all three and how it all intertwines and works. And I'll cover off a Gazelle's one-page strategy document that will tie in and help you and give you something tangible to walk away and help fill this all out. And then what we're going to spend next week on, we'll do 20 minutes of that. 40 minutes of next week is a complete panel. So please share, invite your friends, put it out to your network. As long as they register, if they can't get on at 1 o'clock, which has been difficult for some people, as long as they register, they'll get access to all of this. But what you want is that they register, they get access to it, they get access to all the wonderful advisors. We'll have all 6 advisors on board next week and operate a 40-minute panel around the whole concept of entrepreneurial intelligence. So that's next week. What we're going to finish off this week with, so we've allowed good 30 minutes. We're right on the dot, 1:30. So we've got 30 minutes of Q&A. So any questions you've got, think about them. We're going to go to a Q&A with myself and the panel, and Agatha will facilitate that. But, get those questions firing in. Anything we can't answer today, we will roll over to next week also. But I do urge you, share the love. Get as many people onto this as possible to register, because what will happen is you get access to all the weeks of workshops and they can watch it at a time that suits them. So without further ado, I bring back my fellow consultants, advisors, and I'll work out how I can get them up on my
Yeah, sorry, if you don't mind, essentially stop sharing the screen, please, Phil. Thank you. Fantastic. That's great. Everyone is on here. Good, Tracy. Still haven't got your video. So, sorry, late. I know Dante did mention he was going to be a bit late. Sorry, Phil. So we'll allow Dante to kind of, I guess, introduce himself and give a bit of a 1-minute spiel, who you are, what you do, and what your offer. Go ahead, Dante.
We're going to test this out and hopefully it's going to work okay. I'm in Darwin Airport at the moment, so I'm just in front of, there you go. So it's a little bit noisy in the background. I've got a bit of software that's actually reducing that noise. So hopefully it's coming through clearly for you. My name is Dante St. James. My job is basically to help struggling small businesses to become capable, confident marketers. And we do that through my connections with Facebook Australia and Facebook Global Training Materials, as well as my access to the Google Digital Springboard program. And I'm pretty much a digital nomad. I'm all over the place. So I'm just heading to Brisbane today, Cairns next week, and Broome in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm hoping to meet up with a whole bunch of businesses while I'm on the road and get to spread all of the ASBAS digital solutions love as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dante. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's just rock and roll. So I've got quite a lot of questions here, and they're all coming very fast and steady. Okay, first question, and what we'll do is we'll throw into the panel as well. But Phil, if you want to start. Now, of course, this is actually for you. I have read somewhere that brand is a symbol of what you believe as a company. What does or did Dibella believe?
Yeah, great. So I think I covered it in there, but I'll just recap on it because I see this come through at 1:16. So it would have come through. But very simply, the first thing we did was identify our customers, and we had 2 customers. Our customer number 1 was the cafe owner. Our second customer, which we called our consumer, was the person who went to the customer. So what we did was, I don't like the word tagline, but it is a tagline. To me, it's called a brand promise. Our brand promise, as I discussed to the cafe owner, was to help them make money. How do I help you make money? So it was outcome focused. So it was a symbol, it was a statement. Dibella became to the cafe owner a support mechanism. So the symbol that we stood for was support. We were like their advisors, but they didn't have to pay us, they just had to buy our coffee. In terms of the consumer, it was the ultimate coffee experience. It was a promise that we would go about a process to constantly ensure that we produce and were best in class as much as we could in coffee. So what became the symbol was trust. So for the consumer, we became a symbol of trust. Trust that this product is going to be consistent, it's going to be of the highest possible quality. And while some baristas that are in a bad mood are going to make a shit cup of coffee sometimes, the Dibella brand is going to be a better shit cup of coffee than another brand because we know that they're going to look after as many products. So we really looked about that trust and we looked at that reliability, consulting, what became our symbols for the 2 market audiences. So identify your audience and then build it out from the outside in what you want it to look like.
That's fantastic. That's very good. All right, we'll go to the next question, and this is actually for everyone. If brand is what people say about you, and when you leave the room, how can you find out what they do say and what their perception is about your personal or business brand? That's a very good question. Phil, you want to start, and we'll go around the room?
Simply put, for me, I'm going to come out a bit different because we've got some really good qualified people on here that can answer this, right? But my way that I love to find out what people say about my brand is by researching people that choose someone else's brand. So what I like to do is actually not research my customers as such. I should know why they choose me. I want to sit down and know why they choose somebody else. So for me, it's actually a different perspective. I look at it from a different perspective of why is somebody choosing, a different coffee brand? Why are they choosing Merlot? Why are they choosing Lavazza? Why are they choosing Campos? Why are they choosing another brand? What are they doing that I'm not doing? And then I take that data, I analyze it, and I build strategy to try and get them on board. I'll hand over to the other guys.
Fantastic. Why don't we go with Sandra? I know you're a branded woman.
I guess for me, there's a few ways. Obviously, you've got your reviews and Google reviews, what clients will say to you, but it's also not a bad idea to just ask the question. I know that's come up a few times in conversations where, a few people say, oh yeah, we've heard about you, we've heard your name. And it's always interesting to say what kind of is being said, hopefully only good things. So you can always ask the question, because people will talk, and obviously they'll only tell you what they want you to hear. But I think you have to you can either, there's a few platforms out there where, depending on your brand, you can turn on like PR radars as well. So if they're mentioning your brand, if your brand is being mentioned, it actually monitors the web and it gives you an alert. So this is more relevant for big companies rather than sole traders. So, for example, with Phil, if he put his coffee brand in this PR radar, anytime someone mentions his coffee brand, whether it's good or bad, he could actually get an alert that will say, this is what's being said about your brand. So, you've got that, you've got your Google reviews and that's all testimonials and that. But I think the only way to really find out is to ask people. For me, one of the things that I always tell clients and people I meet is, give me constructive criticism or feedback. I think that's how we grow as people. So I think when you show that you're open to it, people will tell you. And to me, some of the best, feedback has been what's really made a big difference in my business, because I've been open to it. So I think just ask people would be probably, the best thing to do.
I love it. Yes, exactly. Directly asking the people. All right, Carolyn, why don't we go with you? What do you think?
So for a lot of our clients, and we deal with a lot of micro to small business owners, we utilize community groups on social media. So we sit there, we wait for somebody to ask for a recommendation. For example, a car detailer, one of our clients owns a franchise of car detailing, and then we look and we watch what the comments are saying. And if we've done our job right, and if the business is doing their job right, then the comments are going to be positive, and we're going to have clients that have used them in the past are going to come in and say, hey, highly recommend these guys because X, Y, Z. So that's a really good way that we judge what is being said about the brand for our clients in the marketplace. And it's a good way of knowing whether that word of mouth is spreading as well. So it is a bit time consuming sitting in those groups, but it's worth it. And I make a habit to do it once a week just to check in. I have a few community groups. I've got them all listed in the spreadsheet that I go and check in on in the areas that my businesses are active in. So that's one really cool tool. And like Sandra mentioned, there's some really great social listening tools that you can use as well, that you pop your business name in and it shows you what the chat is happening on the web about your business, your industry, and things like that.
I love it.
Just
That's all right. Cool ringtone. All right, Tracy, what do you think?
So look, I think it's mostly being.
Oh, sorry, Tracy. I think you have a bit of a bad connection there. We'll go back to you.
Check out Google Alerts if you haven't got that in place. You definitely want to have that set up for your. We right?
Sorry, Tracy. No. I think your connection.
I'm working. Okay.
All right. Sorry, Dante. We'll go with you, and then I'm sure we'll come back with Tracy in a minute.
Actually particularly fresh. I was working with a cafe in Darwin just yesterday, and one of the first things I did, I said to him, I'm going to spend 2 hours going to your next door neighbours. So I went to 3 cafes that were nearby him, and I sat there, ordered coffee and listened. And I actually listened to what people were doing. This is like, so I'm in a cafe right now in the airport. And what I love to do when I go to cafes or any business, I like to listen to what people are saying. I'm eavesdropping into conversations and to hear what people are saying about the experience they're having. If they're waiting too long, if the coffee's too bitter, if the coffee's too hot, too cold. And then I go back to my client and I say, well, I'll tell you, this guy, he makes coffee that's too hot all the time and people are hating it. This guy sells really bad cookies and people think I'm wishing horrible. So that's the areas where people being on. So I'm giving him all the pictures of what people are saying about other brands so that he can then go, okay, now I know how to build my brand around those things that are not being served right in the community by my competitors. So there's also, I'm with a brand already, or in his case, he's starting from scratch. That's a really good place for him to start from, is to listen to what everybody else is saying about everyone around him.
I love it. Very, very good answers. Thanks, guys. And it is always a personal or business is, we do want to know what other people think about us. All right, next question here. Most people aren't well practiced in creative development of a brand, image, etc. Do you think this is an area where it's essential to bring in a marketing expert, like you guys, to help you develop a lasting brand? Or is there a simple way to design a brand of image and voice? Very good answer, very good question. We'll go with Phil. Why don't you start and then we'll rotate.
Yeah, look, what you've got to understand is, brand for me is easy because I've lived it. I've done it from young age. So it's an area of expertise. That's what I studied at uni, marketing. So it's going to come easy. A lot of the guys here, they're brand experts. That's what they're going to do. So the short answer is yes, right? If I need a lawyer, I'm not a legal expert. I go to a lawyer to get the legal expert, whether it's commercial, whether it's property, whatever it is. I go and get expertise. The whole purpose of the advisors, the panel, one of the things of ASBAS is you go to it to get the expertise that you need. So definitely, the one thing you should know at a bare minimum when you are creating your business is, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? Right? That's the part you have to identify. What is it that you want people to say about you when you leave the room, and your product, your service, about you? What is that? Then you sit down with somebody like some of my colleagues on here that are experts in this field, right? And they will help you build the rest out. That's the purpose. Because you know what? No, most people are not brand experts. Most people are not marketing experts. And you see that because they get it wrong. What are some of the ways they get it wrong? They tell a story from their perspective. Well, you're not buying your product. Customer is. So, you can see very quickly when somebody gets something wrong because it's always coming from the inside out versus the outside in. So short answer, write down what it is that you want to be known for your product or service, and then engage with the person that has the experience in brand, in marketing, in business that can help you then build that plan.
I love it. Absolutely. And yes, Phil, do set up, these advisors are ready to help you out, to book one-on-one with them. All right, where don't we go with Dante? What do you think about that?
One of the simplest ways I've been able to scale a lot of people through the process of building a brand is through Donald Miller's creating a story brand process. And it's a book called Creating a Story Brand. And there's a website that comes with it, which is like a layout that answers certain questions along the way. And it approaches the whole story by going exactly what Phil was saying, not from the inside out, but from the outside in. So it's looking at, what is the problem that you need to solve? What is the problem that people really have? What's their emotional issue when it comes to this? And goes quite deep into it. At the end of it, you come out with a cohesive brand message. I'll actually, Agatha, I know I've run a few webinars about this lately, so I might actually do this one for later in March as well, while it's fresh off the boat. Then I'll send that through to you so we can get one of those going.
Sounds good. No, let's do it. Absolutely. Obviously, this is one of a hot topic at the moment. And let's go with Tracy. Sorry, I know we miss you a little bit. Do turn off your video if that helps, Tracy.
We'll give it a crack. Hey, you need my dulcet tones rather than my...
No, sorry. We'll get back to you, Tracy. Sandra. Sorry.
I don't want to talk over Tracy. So look, I think for me, the bottom line is when it comes to marketing yourself, I've always said people buy people before people buy things. So I think the important thing is to, you know, if you do engage a marketing person, I think they need to align with you, they need to understand you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, very good. Yeah. I think we're still hearing Tracy a little bit. I do apologize.
I think, is Tracy still talking?
No worries.
Sorry. So I think, you know, when it comes to marketing and branding, I think like anything, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person you go to first, the first marketing agency might be the right one. Everyone has a different style. It's like everyone has different taste buds. Some people like this, some people like that. So I think it's important for you as a business to actually do your research and find an agency or, you know, a consultant that actually aligns with your brand and understands your brand and understands your voice, because it really is a two-way street. It's not just, hey, help me, I don't know anything about marketing. It's about getting someone that can ask you the right questions, that can, you know, get the right content out of you in order to then help promote your business. You know, I think a lot of people struggle with promoting themselves because it's so close to their heart. So they almost want to protect it like a child. They're like, I don't want to put it out. So it is important to have someone that comes from, you know, another angle to promote your business. But I think it is important to hire a marketing person to assist you and give you a fresh set of eyes on your business. But I also think it's important to find the right marketing person, because there are a lot of businesses out there, unfortunately, who, you know, have been burnt, who have spent so much money with agencies and they just, you know, sign up to a contract and they'll, you know, spend a lot of money. So I think you must do your research first, you know, engage and talk to other agencies before you actually sign up to one agency. So
I love it. Absolutely. It's like, you know, if you need a surgery, right? I think John mentioned this on my chat here. Are you sick, you need a surgery, which you do your own surgery, right? You do want to get some help and get the best surgeon who understands you. And Carolyn, of course, last but not least, what do you think?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about the practical aspects of your branding. And my suggestion is, if you're going to spend money, really put it into getting a proper logo and the design work done. I've seen a lot of small to micro business owners that try to save money by doing it themselves. And we've got some really great programs out there now, like Canva and things like that. But you need to think long term. I think Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. So I always say to business owners, when you start, anticipate where you're going to be 5-10 years down the track, and that business growth, your brand has to grow with you. So if you try and make your logo yourself, and I'm not throwing shade or anything on people that do this, but understands that a lot of the graphics and everything that's out there at the moment, they're open source. So there's a good chance other businesses can use the same logo, they can use the same icons. And you want something that is unique. You want something that really reflects your business, your ethos. And that ties in with engaging the right marketing person to create that overall brand. And so as your business gets bigger, that logo is going to go on trucks, it's going to go on signage, it's going to go everywhere. And if it's not done right at the beginning, you're going to end up with having to do a redesign at some point in that process. And then you are then going to have to, sorry, just had delivery guy come to the door. And then you're going to have to rebrand and go through that process again. So that's my 2 cents worth on that, is that you pay the money, get a logo, get your branding done properly.
I love it. That's a fantastic input. Thank you, Carolyn. Now that actually goes to this next question, very relevant, is what do you think we should do when something bad happened, and you know, so this brand at the end is associated to something that's bad. Example, a bank, you know, something happened, corruption or scandal or whatever. Now, what do you do therefore with that brand? And you mentioned rebranding. Now, Phil, do you want to start with that?
Well, when something goes wrong with a brand, you've got to understand why. You've really got to understand why. You've got to pull it apart and see what it is, right? And for example, banks, right? Which is the example the question used. Many years ago, NAB, I've used NAB since I was 18. I'm 45. National Bank said, what was it? Less. It was something around less take, more give. was the tagline. It was something like that. Let's give more, let's take more, give. In essence, what they're saying is, hey, we're better than everyone else because we're not going to gouge you, all the rest of it. What happened a couple of months later, they came out and they were the ones that actually weren't dropping the rates when they should have been. Their fees were higher than everyone else. Now, they didn't need to rebrand, and NAB still, recovered from that, came good. But what happens is that when you get adverse effect from brand, I can see there's a leading question that explores that further. What do you do when your brand goes bad? Is you have to identify where it went bad, right? You have to identify the crux of where the problem is before you can actually solve the problem. Because what happens is things go bad with a brand. People don't identify where that's happened. And then they go change rebranding and they spend millions of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars, changing the color, the fonts, the name, but yet it still hasn't solved the problem. So step one is you've got to solve the problem when the brand gets it wrong. Two, some people, and this happens a lot, because one or two or three people don't like your brand, that doesn't mean that you're on the wrong track. You've got to also understand when your brand's not going to be for everybody, right? I didn't put the DeBella coffee brand in the supermarkets, not because everyone else was wrong and I was right. I was very, very clear on the brand values that I had. And that's the key in when I tie it all together. You've really got to understand what values your brand stand for. And the moment that you understand what your brand, the values that your brand stands for, you will understand whether it's been positive or negatively interacted with. And when it is not negative, you'll be able to understand why it was negative and put steps in place to fix it. So, summary, understand what values your brand stands for.
I love it. No, absolutely. Anyone else want to add anything more? I know I'm mindful with time and I've got a lot of questions to go through.
I can quickly just say something. So I think definitely this is a really good example of, crisis management in PR. I think it's important to have a crisis management plan in place. So then obviously, because that's, bad publicity. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you have to rebrand and change the whole existence of your brand. Sometimes it's just important to have a good crisis communications plan in place that you can then go to market and, deliver your message. And then, hopefully if the PR person is good enough, they can deliver the message strongly enough and you will redeem yourself and your clients will be happy again. So I think as well as having a marketing plan in place, it's also important to have a crisis management plan in place. So then if things do go wrong, you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. I love that, you got it from this point of view of a PR media. Now, this next question is, if the person who wins is the person who tells the most compelling story, and this is a question for the panel, all of you, do you have any suggestions on anything unusual or a different way to tell that compelling story? Phil, compelling story.
Yeah, look, I do, but don't get caught up in gimmicks. And the example I'll use, because everyone will have a story and conscious of time, I got to spend a week at Richard Branson's Necker Island. So we one night together, we got, we drank a lot of alcohol and it was really cool. And the one story that stands out that I want to share with you that he told me, right? This stunt cost him $1 million and you can look at it on YouTube. And it was when he was trying to take on Coca-Cola with Virgin Cola. Right, so he goes, I'm taking on Coca-Cola. He launched Virgin Cola, and he goes, I'm going to spend so much money in showing that our brand is more powerful. I'm going to hire a tank. I'm going to drive it on Times Square, and I'm going to aim it at the Coca-Cola sign, the famous Coca-Cola sign in Times Square, and it's going to supercharge my publicity, showing how much stronger Virgin Cola is than Coca-Cola. Blah blah blah. And he said, you know what it did? It lost me sales. It didn't gain me sales. I spent $1 million on pulling that. And I actually lost business, not got more business because the messaging was wrong. Ready for this? The motivation of how I went about trying to tell the story was completely wrong and didn't resonate with anybody.
Yeah, spot on. All right. Anyone else, Sandra?
I can follow into that. So I think that's a good example of trying to doing it, I guess, not for the wrong reasons, but sort of trying to almost put down your competition. One of my big things in business is I don't like to compare myself. I think it's important to see what else is out there in your industry, but you don't want to come out trying to undermine your competitors because it actually looks silly and it can actually turn people away. What you want to do is showcase and, you know, the quality of your brand, the amazing services so really focus on the positives and I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it's true, focus on the positives that your business has to show, rather than focus on you know, your competitors and what they're doing, because actually what that does, you're actually then bringing publicity to your competitors by doing that. So, you know, identify what your top 2 or 3 strengths are in your business and put a spotlight on that. And I think, you know, in terms of showcasing people, but you know, once again, it's just being authentic, showcasing yourself. Everyone else that is taken, you can do this through video content, you can do it through podcasts, you can do it through having a YouTube. Just showcase who you are, showcase your passion behind what it is that you do, and don't get too caught up on comparing yourself to competitors, because when we do that, what we actually end up doing is creating a strategy that is based on our competitors, not our own business. So just kind of try and focus on your own brand.
Absolutely. And Carolyn, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and I touch on a bit of what Sandra was just mentioning. I think the more authentic you can be with your client, the better. Utilize the resources you have at hand. Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives are a great way to do it. And I know for some people it's really scary. So maybe investing some time into developing your public speaking skills is a good investment, and just learning to communicate and showing people through speaking to them, and you build that relationship. It's not gimmicky, it's authentic, and you build that relationship with people.
I love that. Dante, what do you think?
Match your target. If you want families, talk about families. If you want women, talk about the women in your life. If you want young men, talk about the young men in your life. Always match who you're trying to target. If you're trying to talk about, getting more women at 45 to 65 into your venue, and your venue is really about people from 18 to 25, you're totally missing the mark. So just tell real stories from your own life, or the life of your staff, the people around you, your own family. You don't have to go to depths of, ultra vulnerability where you're sharing about that traumatic incident that happened when you were 23, but tell real stories. Don't lie. Don't make up stories, because you will get caught out, and people, you get famous like Phil over there, and people will catch you out and they'll tell you that, hey, you told this story about it. I found out that wasn't true. Not the Phil.
It was Phil's story, yes. I love it. No, that's absolutely spot on. Love it. All right. There's this one question from Helen, and I love it. This is for all of you, the expert in the industry. Helen said, have you ever utilized a mentor yourself? Because, I mean, you probably classified as expert and mentor, informally or formally, as when you explored your ideas, your passions, and how to build your business. If you did, what is the most significant contribution of that mentor to your growth? And we'll probably start with Phil. Who's your mentor, Phil?
I don't have a mentor as such. I've got 2 things that I want to share. One is I'm part of the YPO group, so Young Presidents Organisation. That's a very hard group to get into. So have a look at EO, which is the next level down. So EO is a really good organisation for people that are in business to get in, and to qualify is a lot easier, but the system is the same. And it's a group so that you get into, and it's like having your own personal advisory board. We talk about personal, professional and family. So we cover all 3 areas of our lives. And it's a group that obviously talks through experience, helps you through situations, positive, negative, the whole lot. So that's my mentorship group. I do believe in mentors, but they've got to serve a purpose. Some people just get a mentor to tick and flick. And I talked about rubbing the magic Buddha last week. There's no such thing as rubbing a magic Buddha or getting a mentor that's going to do it for you. You've got to get in the river and do the work. What I love researching better than mentors is I love looking at a lot of documents, case studies of why things go wrong. So I'll pick a subject, I'll look at a topic or something I want to learn about, and I'll look at who does it well, I'll look at who's done it badly, and I'll read both documents. And I'll try and identify why the person gets it right wins and why the person who got it wrong lost. So I use that right there. They're my 2 biggest tips that I share. But I'm not against mentors or coaches or advisors. What I am against is thinking that just because you've got one, you're setting yourself up for success. That would be the wrong mentality.
I love that answer. Absolutely. Just quickly, so Sandra, what do you think? Have you got a mentor? Do you use a mentor?
So I don't have a mentor that I go see regularly, but I do try and go to, as you know, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. Love him or hate him, I like him. So I try and go to Tony Robbins events once a year, and I've been to quite a few of his live events. They have been a great help to me. One of the big takeaways that I have, other than Tony Robbins, reading books for me is really important.
Yeah.
So always reading books. You know, I think in a book, it's years and years and years of experiences that people have had that you can read within a week. So books are a big one. For me, Tony Robbins is obviously something that I do really, and the big
How much is Tony Robbins paying you right now?
Yes, I know, right? I should be getting a commission for anyone that's like that. But one of the big takeaways for me, and this is something that has changed my mindset, is that 80% of success is actually psychology and 20% is strategy. So we need to be very clear about where we actually want to go in our business and believe that we actually can, because we all have these limiting beliefs that are stopping us from getting to where we know we should be.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest takeaway with my Tony Robbins events that I've gone
Thank you. Love it. Dante, who's your mentor, Dante?
I've got a coach to make me a better adult. I've got an accountability buddy to make me a better man. I've got a female coach that I work with who helps me to heal my relationship with women. And I've got a financial coach because I'm absolutely useless with money. So I value my coaches so much.
Well, you have to go through ASBES. You got some financial coaches for sure. And Carolyn, lastly, who's your mentor?
So I have a business coach, I have a voice coach, and I actually have a spiritual coach. So, and all three of those people in my life, I give permission to speak into my life and tell me the hard stuff, tell me things that maybe people won't feel comfortable telling me to my face. And I give them permission to speak into my life, to show me those areas for me to work on. And it definitely makes me a better business owner, better person, better wife, just an all-round better human being.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. All right, I am mindful of time. I just want to let everyone know, thank you for all the questions. All the questions that cannot be answered today will be answered next session, next week, same time. And it's the session of Ask Phil and the panelists anything. So this program is brought to you by Business Station through the ASBES Digital Solutions, and we're delivering webinars, online workshops, and also face-to-face workshops, one-on-one with all these advisors. And it's, you know, all you need in digital solutions as well as general business advice. Now, lastly, Phil, last word. What do you think? Give a takeaway on this brand.
So remember that you know, it's a brand is all about generating an emotional connection to get people to choose you. Understand that you know, there's some great nuggets that came out of there, especially from the advisors. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the work. Listening to webinars, having a coach, you know, reading, all the rest of it is only part one. Part two is get in that river. You've got to do the work. You don't do the work, you don't get the results. You can have all the vision in the world, you can set up all the parameters, all the strategy, but if you don't jump in that river, you ain't going anywhere. So jump in there, be the best you can be, and we won't see you next week.
Thanks, Phil. Always a pleasure. Thanks, Dante. Thanks, Karen, and thanks, Sandra. See you next week. Bye.